All the countries were, people couldn't travel because this one was ruled by Roman Catholicism, this one was ruled by Lutheranism. But the people that had the skills to build these giant cathedrals were free to travel anywhere. They could travel to France, to Germany, to anywhere to build them because they had the techniques. And there were different degrees. There was the first degree, which just carried stuff around. There was the second degree, which learned how to cut and properly build things. And then there was the third degree, or the master mason, who would actually do the work and knew how to plumb and level. And they had these different things. They had the square, they had the compasses, which you see going over there. They also had the plumb, which is in the, shows true up and down. And, they had all these implements, okay?
And the E that was in the middle of that means God.
Well, it means God, but, whatever. I mean, whatever, yes. But I don't know how far back that goes, if that was added later or not. But all these, these were originally real tools used by real people to do real work. Okay, and they had this free status, and they also had their own initiations. Okay, and because of that, nobody else was allowed to get in unless they were considered qualified. Well, people started to say, I want to be able to travel to France. I want to travel. So they would sell initiations to people in order to, so that they could go and do this traveling. All right, even if they weren't fully qualified, they would do that. Eventually, though, what happened? Modern building techniques caught up with this group, and they no longer needed these giant cathedrals. And you see these in flying buttresses and how beautiful they are. These are the people that did that. And it's a real skill. I mean, we can't do it today. We can't make the same glass. When one gets broken, we can't make the same colors. Anyway, what they did is they started to go from active masonry, or what's the term? Physical masonry, and there's a term, I'm forgetting it right now. They went into symbolic masonry. And that's when they really started to sell out the code words and all of the things. And they started to take all of these things, the square and the compasses, and they made moral life lessons out of them. So the square, I don't even want to tell you what it says, because if I do, I will give you a challenge, though. I will give you a challenge, and nobody has ever taken me up on this challenge, but maybe somebody in this class will, okay? Every single word of the Blue Lodge is written, and it's on the internet, every word of it, okay? One guy has it published on a site, okay? There are a million sites that say a million things about masonry, okay? All of them are wrong except one that I've seen. If you send me a link to a site and say, is this the right site? Then and it's not, I'll say no. If you send me a link to the site and it is the right site, I'm not going to answer you. And that way I'm free from my, okay? So you can, and I will do that. If anybody ever comes to a site and they say, is this the site? And you don't get an answer, you'll know that that's the site. And you can read every word of the Blue Lodge right online, and it is the most innocuous stuff. Here's how boring it is. People long to get out of here and to get up to here. That's how boring it is. It is painfully boring. Oh, I'm going to tell you what, I was the first person, not only was I the youngest master of a Blue Lodge in the Grand Lodge of Japan's history, but I was also probably the only person ever to memorize the entire book from page to page. And the first time they asked, you go up, and in order to move up in certain ways, you have to repeat it. And the way you repeat it is to initiates, new initiates. And so they have abbreviated versions, but they have the long version you can read. I memorized the entire long version, and that... No, I did it in English. But I got to tell you what, that poor guy, when I was done speaking about 3 hours later, was, But anyway, I've memorized the entire book from cover to cover. And unfortunately, I took it and threw it away. When I met the Lord and that guy got on me, I took my lambskin apron, I threw that away. I took my Master's Mason apron, I threw that away. The only thing I kept was my King James Bible with the Mason stuff in there. I couldn't throw a Bible away. So eventually I donated it with my name and with all the things that I had done to the seminary I went to. But anyway, that's Masonry. That's it. And it's no big deal, but it's fun for some people. I don't recommend you get into it because you tend to divide your allegiances when you're into anything else other than Jesus. But just so you know, if somebody isn't a Mason and they don't know the Lord, speak to them about the Lord. If they do know the Lord, then say, why don't you do this full time instead of doing that and that? Anyway.
Where were you installed, Charlie?
In Kokusai Lodge number 15, F&AM, what is it? Fusashi, Yokohama. Fusa to Yokohama shi Tokyo to Nippon. There you go.
I was installed at the Grand Bahia in Orlando.
Oh, okay.
Grand Bahia Temple.
Oh, good. All right. Well, that's where I was, and I eventually worked through the tiers and got up to the top. I didn't know you were a Mason.
Have you been able to erase what you arduously memorized?
I don't remember much of it. I guarantee you if I got the book and I started, it would come back very quickly. But I memorized Acts 17 one time. And Paul's discourse to the Areopagus. But I would have to sit down and reread it. And I also memorized it in the NASB, which I never use. And so, once you forget, it's like languages. I taught myself Korean, I taught myself Greek and Hebrew, and I just don't know them anymore. If you don't use them, you lose them. I have forgotten much, much more than I ever knew, or whatever. Yeah, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I just don't remember them anymore at all. But especially the Korean, I can still read. I picked it up a while ago, and I can read. I don't know what I'm reading, but I can read it, if that makes sense. It's like you can pick up a book in German, and you can read it. No problem, but you don't know what it says? That's like me in Korean. I know the Korean, I know the characters, I taught myself the language in a couple hours. It's not a difficult... It is... No. Now listen to me. I could send you a link. Now listen to how spooky this is. You want to talk about how things work. You go online and you try to learn Korean. It is the most complicated. Oh, and they're all written by Korean people. And you think, I'll never learn this. I finally clicked on this one site and it was like learning your ABCs. It was so simple. Guess who wrote it? A Jewish guy. We come from the outside and go in. It is so much simpler than these people are trying to overanalyze their own language, and they make it so complicated. This Jewish guy, plus he's Jewish, which is a plus right there. But he makes it so simple. It literally in hours you can learn to read Korean. It's the simplest language you will ever come across. It is. A guy named, their great king named Sejong developed the Korean language. And he sat down with a bunch of people and they wrote it out. And the way the characters are written, they match the way your mouth moves when you speak. It is so simple. Take time sometime to read Korean because it is a beautiful language.
It's not worth buying Rosetta Stone.
No, well, I don't know. I've never taken Rosetta Stone. I tried one of their trial tapes and I didn't like it. But I did take the Pimsleur to learn Hebrew and Greek, and that works very well. But it's rote learning, so whatever you learn, that's all you learn. You can't adapt it to other things. So in order to adapt your knowledge, you have to actually work at it. Whereas Pimsleur, it just gives you rote, Slicha, ani mevin ivrit. That means, excuse me, do you speak Greek? Well, I couldn't adapt that to say, excuse me, I'm sorry, that was Hebrew, not Greek. Anyway, you can't adapt it. Whatever you've learned is all you've learned. So Pimsleur is good if you just want to be able to learn to understand people speaking to you without really being able to respond. Just enough on languages. Anyway, are you leaving?
I have to go.
All right, have a wonderful day. All right, take care. All right, so we have Tubal Cain. Oh, we got off on that guy. I'm sorry, all that extra stuff just because of Tubal Cain. All right, verse 23, somebody.
Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, listen to me, wives of Lamech. Hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. Okay, in all honesty, I've read several analyses on this, and one of them was really good, and I don't remember. Do you have any reference on this one? Tom, okay. Does anybody else have anything on this? I read a very good commentary, and I thought, wow, that sounds right, and the rest of them didn't, and I don't remember right offhand what it was, but it was something about his arrogance, saying, Cain killed somebody and he was to be avenged 7 times, and I'm 77 times, or, just applying it to himself like he was somehow special or something. Bragging, something like that, but what's that? Oh, anyway, but I don't remember the specifics of it, but it was a very good analysis. And so it is good to, sit down and read these things, but always be careful that what you're reading makes sense with the text. And they reference something that I think something Jesus said.
You should forgive?
77 times. Yeah, and I think that's the one that they applied to that, something about forgiveness. And they wove it together very well, and I just don't remember the gist of it, but anyway, all right, go ahead. Verse 25.
Adam lay with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him.
Okay, actually the word Seth means appointed, and that's why most Bibles will say God has appointed another seed for me. Because when they name somebody, they will, not always, but normally they will give the interpretation of the name in the same sentence. And a real classic of this is the book of Jeremiah, when he is naming these, and I don't have it in front of me, so he's saying to like these cities, roll in the dust, O house of dust. And the name of the city in Hebrew is dust, okay? And I wish I could find it real quickly, and maybe I can, but the NIV does a great job of telling you what each of these Hebrew names is. And so when you read it, it says, weep not at all in Orpah, okay? Does anybody have, let me see if I can find this real quickly, because I'll read it to you, and it's just so fun to see how the Bible does this. If I can't find it real quickly, then I won't waste your time on it, but hang on one sec here. The word weep, and then we're going to go to W-E-E-P, and weeping, weepest, and it's in Jeremiah. My eyes weep, weep ye not for the dead, weep sore, I will weep for thee. Okay, unfortunately the King James Version doesn't use that one. Let me try one more thing, Orpah, and we'll see if we can find it in there. But it's so interesting to see how these are translated, and that would be the same as what he's saying here. I have appointed, O-R-P-H-A, I think is the word I'm looking for, O-R, Orpah. Okay, that's the mother of Ruth, okay, Ophrah. Anyway, I'm going to look for one more thing, and if I don't find it, then I'm just going to say never mind. But, Ophrah, okay, right here. It should be in, no, they didn't do it there either, Job. Okay, anyway, and I did read to you, and I'll read it for anybody who missed this last year, the significance of these names as they go. Adam's name is man, Seth is appointed, Enosh is mortal, Kenan, these are the people that came from Adam, the first 10 names that came from Adam. Kenan is sorrow, Mahalalel is the blessed God, Yared means shall come down, Enoch means teaching, Methuselah means his death shall bring, which is kind of a funny name, Lamech, the despairing, and Noah means comfort. Okay? If you take those 10 names and you read them as a sentence, it gives you the gospel. Man appointed mortal, sorrow, the blessed God shall come down, teaching his death shall bring the despairing comfort. So there you go, the gospel in the first 10 names of the Bible. Each one of these names, and the Lord picked every name in the Bible for a reason. They all have a purpose. So as you read the Bible and you see these names, you think, why is this person's name? One of my favorite verses in the entire Bible is in Nehemiah, and it says, what's his name? Son of Zebai. I can't remember it right offhand. Anyway, it says this guy zealously did his work, and that's all it says about him in the whole Bible. This one guy zealously did his work as he was building the wall for Nehemiah. And I think the Lord chose this person to show, his zeal just for doing a menial job. And I wish I could remember the exact verse, but I can't. Go ahead.
In Girl Scouts, I learned an old, probably spiritual, and one of the verses was Joshua. They didn't even call him Joshua. Joshua was the son of Nun. He ne'er would quit till his work was done. Isn't there something about persisting in the name Joshua?
No, Joshua means salvation.
Oh.
So I'm not really sure what... and there's a joke about Joshua the son of Nun. I'll think of it in a minute. It was a funny one. It's something about Nun, but anyway. No, his name means salvation. His name in Greek is exactly the same as Jesus in Greek. So when you see, there's 2 times in the New Testament where it says Jesus, in some translations will say Joshua, and some translations will say Jesus. Okay, one of them is in Hebrews, and the other one is in, anyway, twice that happens in New Testament.
Does N-U-N mean something about persisting?
It may. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that one up. But Nun is also, not only is it his name, but it's also one of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Nun. It's I don't know which one. I think it's the 14th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Nun. Anyway, I can check that out for you.